We'd reached the milestone of 1.3 million per month, which leads us to about a $16 million annual revenue there.
2.4 mil to now 16 mil in 7 years. That's remarkable. So Pete, tell us a little bit about you and the Southpaws company.
I'm the general manager for Southpaws. We have 3 hospitals across Melbourne and we provide specialist veterinary services.
And so there's this real challenge when you're a clinician of serving the patient or serving the client, and at the same time you've got to run a commercial outfit. What did you notice were some of the biggest challenges when you came into the business?
What I found was a lot of handshakes and informal deals, and this person's our social media person. She does it when she feels like it or has time. I think there was a desire to see the business become more organized and have success by intent rather than success through pure hard work and activity.
So as far as the trajectory, the Southpaws, from when it started with us back in 2018 to now, has had some pretty good growth. You want to just share some of the actual practical part of the growth of what you guys have achieved?
So in 2020, there was a second hospital opened in the Mornington Peninsula, which really leveraged the size of the team that had been cultivated over that time. We are one of the largest trainer of specialist surgeons in Australia. So each year at the end of a 3 or 4 year program, there is hopefully a new specialist surgeon created. That was a way of reaching a new demographic, a new geography, which was quite forward growth in that sense. By 2022, the opportunity to go into a third hospital came up, and that was certainly a big leap and a big amount of growth. But there was a desire at that point to introduce some services that might be a bit more recession proof. We became a very big surgical operation, which meant we had a very big exposure to what people in society can afford to spend on their pets. And obviously if that changes, we've got an enormous amount of fixed costs and exposure to not being able to have the same demand anymore. I remember our first $1 million month as a group, and by 2024 we'd reached the milestone of 1.3 million per month, which leads us to about a $16 million annual revenue there. Back in 2018 we were talking about a $2.4 million annual revenue, all the way up to a $16 million annual revenue. So it's a lot of growth, some scale, probably mainly growth.
I think what's unique is there are some businesses that have a different level of ability to scale. And we look at this business, this is a very difficult business to scale, because to train the team up to be able to do what they need to be doing, which is surgery, is anywhere up to 10 years or so, sometimes even longer, before you can even get someone to do the job. How do you guys, when you've got such a bottleneck around the key people that are the breadwinners, the people that bring in the cash into the business, and that takes up to 10 years to get someone from zero, how do you guys think about that strategically, and how do you use that to plan going forward, Peter?
I mean, capacity planning is really going to be about looking far enough into the future to know where we want to be, and then working backwards from there. So that's really understanding where we need to be or want to be or are going to be, informs the sort of amount of scale that we need. And then we can look at, are we actually training enough people that will come through in the right timeframes, or do we need to look at some external recruitment to support the training program, but also just add the direct capacity in there and the ability to recruit new cases or to attract new referring partners.
And tell me, in that journey, because you've had to go through quite a few of the sweet spots to get to 16 million, you're about to go to the next one. What are some of those biggest lessons that you've learned in the process?
We were growing rather than scaling, and the busyness of growth meant that we were not watching the numbers or the data. And that was a really rude awakening, because in 6 to 12 months, when the problems start hitting, now you're looking at the numbers. But if you had been earlier, you would have seen it coming, and maybe you would have created a course correction sooner. It's remarkable how often the stuff that we did to achieve success is the first thing we stop doing again when we get that success. The other one's really being too busy to put the fundamentals in place. It took a long time to work through our organizational structure. Everything stems from there. You've got to organize the structure.
Yeah, I think one of the big things to take in point as well is you have to have quite a lot of evolution of the team. And it was roughly about 15 people in the team to start with. How many you've got in the team now, and how have you built the organizational clarity to enable such great expansion?
We Float between sort of 100 and 110 employees across the three locations, and that's probably sort of a 65% across the three in sort of concentration. The one sort of real economy of scale we've got in there is the leadership team are centralized and across all three. So there's really little repetition of that. There's a practice manager or a clinic manager in each location, which is kind of a main point person for the non-clinical leadership team to work with. We can scale any of those units and not need to invest further in that leadership team, which is, yeah, that's a little bit unusual in our industry and something that gives us some strength and capacity.
So tell me, what's one challenge that you didn't expect to face and how did you deal with it?
Probably the biggest challenge in just fundamental management of the business is the lack of data that we have and systems in those. And again, I think at times the frustration and the focus went on the lack of the solution rather than building the solution.
What do you see as the brightness of the future for Southpaws as we look forward?
The key functions within the business should really have a dedicated person within them. They don't have to be an expert necessarily, but they need to have a lot of ownership and accountability for it. We believe now that we have the tools, the people, and the structures to bring people in, to look after them, to help them perform, to grow them, and enough systems and processes to operate sustainably. Yeah, we've grown a lot, but what we're looking to do now is this scale where we're doing more work with less or same levels of effort rather than just putting in more effort and more work for a slightly bigger thing. We're looking for that, exponential return now.
From where you were and where the business was before to where it is now, how does that make you feel now you've got the structure laid out as well as you have?
Just a sense of now you have sort of a good experiment. You've only got one or two variables to test and measure to see where are we going wrong, where can we improve. Now I feel that we know our business well and that it's stable and organized, and we just got to find that final 5 or 10% now of productivity to get to a point where the profit is really sustainable.
What's the difference in profit do you see that's going to be coming in, either dollar value or percentage wise?
Dollar value, six figures. $150,000 per month is what's possible. Push towards that 1.5 million per month, which would take us up to the 20 million annual, and that's where we're looking to see stable revenue, stable profitability.
Who would you recommend Abundance Global to or for, and why?
Really, the small to medium business owners that have done a good job through doing, but not so much by knowing. They're very good at what they do and they've managed to build a very good business out of it, but they need to decide if they're going to stay at a 1 or 2 person operation or if they're going to go bigger. And if they're going to go bigger, all of the things that they would benefit from putting in advance rather than getting to the bigger part and then finding all of the things that you're missing.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add in? Anything else that you feel like you wanted to throw in at all, Pete?
Know your strengths and weaknesses, align them with the right areas, responsibilities and tasks in the business, use others where you need to.
Awesome.